Hi there. So, this is Santee, and I'm your coach for today. And this is Soul Growth Wellness. So, if you like what you see, you can go ahead and share. You can go ahead and like the video, and you can also go ahead and subscribe. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I am a relationship and wellness coach. That's what I focus on. But today, what we're going to be focusing on is something about relationships. And what I specifically want to talk about in terms of relationships today is insecurity, the big I. So many of us have insecurities, and that's a really, really normal thing for human beings to have, whether you're a guy, girl, non binary, anything in between. You're going to have moments where you don't feel as esteemed as you would like in yourself, where you're not going to feel as comfortable with who you are, or how you communicate, or what type of actions or behaviors you engage in. And that's okay because, the whole point of growth in a life journey is to get through those things, to get through those challenges and become a better and better version of yourself as you go on. So insecurity is something that pops up a lot in relationships. And to just be real clear, insecurities can really damage a relationship because it ultimately means that you are going to be treating your partner in a way that is very distrustful. It's going to be in a way that is ultimately just very needy. You're going to ultimately, kind of push your partner away because of those insecurities. So, an example of that in just everyday life, not necessarily relationship, is when you're insecure, it might mean that you misunderstand what someone says to you. They could actually be giving you a compliment, but you feel like it's an insult or a backhanded or something like that. An insecurity might be how you communicate with a coworker, because maybe you feel like they have more, going on, they're more successful at the company, and you ultimately feel insecure, so you might have more of a negative reaction to something that they say or their constructive criticism, and that could, turn into something negative and ultimately damaging for your relationship in a work environment. In a relationship where insecurity really, really pops up is how you all approach each other in the relationship. And what I mean by that is do you trust your partner? Do you feel as if they have your best interests at heart? Do you ultimately feel that when they're communicating to you about anything in the relationship, that you don't have to take it personally and feel it's an attack on you and your identity and where you're coming from? An example of this is something as simple as, your partner is feeling maybe a little out of sorts. Maybe they're not feeling as appreciated. Well, if you're feeling insecure in the relationship, you might take that to mean that, oh, well, they just don't love me and they just don't think that I ever do enough for them. That's what insecurity can color it as, is that I'm not doing enough for them. And while your partner is saying that something is wrong and that they want to try to work on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're lacking. That's an insecurity that you're having when you think that way. So that's an example, one of the main examples that I can think of in terms of how insecurity can impact a relationship. And there are obviously a lot of examples, and I could go down a list if I actually just had one in front of me. But for the sake of a shorter video, we're just going to go straight into how it negatively impacts the relationship. And as I've already mentioned, it damages the relationship. In addition to damaging the relationship and causing issues with trust, it ultimately makes both partners, the one who's insecure and the one who's recognizing insecurity, feel that there's a dissonance, which basically means that you all aren't linked up, you're not matched, you don't feel bonded in the moment, which is something that really obviously impacts a relationship on a negative level. In addition to insecurities and how it impacts the other side, in this case, the person who is experiencing the insecurity and their partner who's being insecure, is that it can kind of make you feel like, you know, helpless. What can I do to make you feel good, to make you feel whole, to make you feel a part of my life. And that's a huge, huge weight and burden to put on someone. Ultimately, it's not the other person's responsibility to make you feel good about yourself. You need to bring that into the relationship with you. Ultimately, what your partner is there for is to help that beautiful, I'm feeling good about myself continue to go. They're not responsible for getting that started for you. That is ultimately your responsibility. So when it impacts your relationship like that, insecurities can just turn turn into a really, really dark place in a relationship, because it oftentimes shows up in the number one that you hear about in relationships, which is jealousy. If one or both of the partners are feeling jealous, then it also means that you're not trusting each other. And if you're not trusting each other, then you're going to look at people's phones, you're going to, look at who all they're talking to, you're going to come to maybe possibly erroneous conclusions. Now, this is outside of the context of if their partner is actually cheating on you. Obviously, there are, problems with that, because they're being disloyal and you're not able to trust them. But in the context of a relationship where you can pretty much assume that maybe both partners are being faithful and loyal to each other, the insecurity can still pop up in really unseemly ways, and that can really damage how you all operate with each other and how you move together in a relationship, how you're able to complement and provide comfort for each other. If you all can't complement and comfort each other, then it's going to create a really unstable dynamic between the two of you. So that's just something to think about. In terms of some self-work, what you can do for insecurity is, as a coach, one of the things that we recommend constantly for people dealing with insecurities is to just ask yourself some questions. Am I being unreasonable about what my partner has just said? Am I actually having a disconnect? Am I not understanding what they're saying? Am I missing something important in what they've said? That could ultimately impact how you're, viewing something that your partner is communicating to you. If there's a situation where maybe you're dealing with, just kind of like everyday situations, like an example might be how you're, dealing with, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example here, but right now one does not come off the top of my head. But one of the things that I'm thinking of here is when you're dealing with insecurity and you want to do some self-work on that insecurity, is you want to think about, well, how do I feel? Do I feel like I have high self-esteem? Do I feel like I'm, that I have a good positive self-concept? And a good positive self-concept is your self-image. Am I a good person? Do I take care of my business? Is my career on point? Is my relationship on point? Are there any things that I need to do internally in terms of self-reflection? Like, is there anything that happened in my past? Am I bringing baggage to the relationship? These are all sorts of questions that you can ask yourself to try to, find out and discover and explore where your insecurities lie. And when you do find out where those insecurities lie, you can ultimately start to work on them. You can start to process them and realize that maybe that insecurity is filtering the way that you are viewing your partner, the way that you are actually having them say something to you and you're kind of like insulted or taken aback. And maybe that's not their intent at all, but that insecurity is making it appear so. So that's just an example of what I'm talking about in terms of insecurities. I'll be posting more videos that deal specifically with insecurities, some more details and things like that, to really go ahead and help people understand better what insecurities are and how they can really damage a relationship going forward. But right now, that's a pretty short clip that I have for right now. So I will see you all again in another video. You take care. And again, if you like what I have had to say, you think that it's useful, go ahead and like. You can also go ahead and subscribe, and you can also go ahead and share the video. So thanks. This is again Soul Growth Wellness, and have a great day. Bye.